Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sara Newman, and I'm so happy you're joining me for this episode of Saturday with Sara. I'm really excited. We have new stamps, and today we're going to play with the Whimsical Wings and Threads of Kindness sets from our friends at Concord and Ninth. Now, with Whimsical Wings, I'm going to flip this over, and you can see one possible option for creating a beautiful multicolored stamped butterfly. But of course, that's not the only thing that you can do with this set. And we have the Threads of Kindness stamp set. Now this has some really versatile sentiments, plus a cute little layering tulip. Now to help us with our stamping, I'm going to use my trusty Misty stamping tool, and I've got some beautiful colored inks from Hunky Dory too. As you can see, we have a lot to explore today, and I'm so glad that you're here. Come play with us. Before I use an acrylic stamp that has a large surface area like this butterfly or a very dense solid area like this tulip here, I will first prep the stamp by simply rubbing a white eraser onto the surface. So if I just flip this over and gently rub that eraser all over just the large surface areas here, and then wash off any little eraser shavings, that's going to help to prime the acrylic and give a crisper impression. And I can show you what I mean by this. So with this tulip here, this is before I primed my tulip stamps. And I stamped this simply one time with my VersaFine ink. And I can look at this and I can see there are a couple of little bald patches on my tulip. But after I've used my eraser trick, then I've got a perfect impression. So this is not something you have to do with every stamp set or every time you use it, but it does come in handy as a little trick for areas that have a very solid surface, like a silhouette design, or also large clear acrylic stamps. So just something to keep in mind for when you're working with your new stamps first time. Okay, so let's get stamping. First of all, I want to show you this card that is using the Threads of Kindness stamp set. Now this has that beautiful tulip design. It is super fun and easy to layer, so I thought we could start there. Now in creating a layered design, you need to choose a couple of different ink colors. I'm using Hunky Dory's Prism ink pads, and what I'm going to do here for this stamp design is make sure to choose 2 shades of a single color. So for example, on my tulip, I'm starting with the electric blue and then layering on top of it with the royal blue. So I've got my lighter color and then my darker color on top. For the leaves, I've started with the shamrock green, and then on top of that, I've layered the holly green. So you can see where that darker color is on there. So your base color is going to be the lighter of the two. And then I've stamped on top of this using the VersaFine Onyx. Okay, so let's take a look at this process. I'll move aside my card and scoot over my inks. Now I'm going to be working with my Misty. As you can see, my Misty is used very, very often. It's well loved, I guess you would say. And Misty really does come in handy when you're working with layered stamps. So I'm going to start here first with the leaf and stem. So this comes all together as one piece. So I'm going to pull this off and then simply place my leaf where I want it to go. I'm going to scoot my magnets a little bit closer here and then close up my stamp positioner, and I've got my image on here. So I'm going to start with my shamrock ink and simply ink this up and then stamp. Now the Prism ink pads are dye-based ink pads, and they just give a really nice crisp and clean look. Okay, so now I'm going to take off that stamp, and I'm going to take the layered leaves. So this piece right here. Now this comes together, so you don't have to worry about layering each of the leaves, but just one piece all together. I'm going to hope that I've got that angle right. And again, simply close this up. Now I'm going to use my darker color. So I'm using the holly green for this one. Again, ink that up. and then simply close this. And there we go. So I've got my leaves layered. Now you can opt to do the layering or decide not to. So you can go for a non-dimensional look if you want to. Completely up to you. You've got lots of options there. Now for our tulip top, I've got, again, two pieces. I've got the base piece here and then this kind of half circle that's going to go on top. So let me grab my tulip. Now what I can decide to do, I can have my tulip nested right up next to the leaf if I want to, but I kind of like how the leaves are a little bit separated from the stem. So maybe what I want to do is emphasize that and leave a little bit of space there as well. So there's my tulip top. Now of course I could have it going this way, I could have it going this way, I could have it straight up, so you can really play with the positioning of that. Okay, so there's my tulip. Now I'm going to ink this up using the electric blue, which is the lighter of my two blue colors. And then simply place that back down. There we go. Now it looks like I missed a little portion in the middle. Now the great thing about the MISTI, of course, is that I can simply come back, leave everything where it is, simply come back, add a little bit more ink to this, and then repeat. This has saved me a lot of paper in my stamping life, as you can imagine. So if you ever find that you've got an area that just didn't stamp perfectly, this is a great way to make up for that. Okay, it looks like I do have my tulip right on the base of my stem, which is fine. Then I'm going to go ahead and add the bottom portion on here. So let me grab this and position that where it will overlap. I'm working at a bit of an angle. My suggestion is always when you're stamping, if you can stand or if you can sit in a way that you have a direct aerial view of your stamping, that's going to be make a big difference in your positioning. So I'm sitting at kind of a funny angle here, so we're going to hope for the best. Now what I'll do is add in my darker blue, and this is the royal blue. So ink this up, and we'll see how we go here. Position that down. And it looks like I aimed it pretty well, so not too bad. Now what I can do is either leave this as is, or I can also add my sentiment on top. And the word that I used was grateful. And this, of course, just makes such a beautiful statement for so many different themes of cards. And I've kind of positioned it so that it's overlapping the stem. Now, of course, it can go anywhere you want it to go, but let's have it just kind of overlapping that stem there. And for this, I'm using my VersaFine in Onyx Black. Ink this up. I love this black ink pad. It's one of my favorites. And then simply position this down. Oop, and it looks like, once again, my MISTI came to the rescue. I had a bit of a bald patch on there, and we can go ahead and just ink it again or stamp it again and make sure that that gets perfectly stamped. And then there we go. We've got a really fun layered design. Super easy to do. So let me move aside my stamp positioner here, and we can take another look at the card itself. Now the focal is die cut into an oval, and I've layered it onto a background of white cardstock, and the cardstock has been embossed with the wood texture embossing plate, and that's going to give some dimension to the background while still keeping the modern, clean, and simple design of the card. And then for the card inside, I have the same stamp using the same colors, and I've just positioned this at an angle to come from the side of the oval die cut. And again, I've overlapped one of the sentiments, also stamped in Onyx Black, to create kind of a mirror design of what we've got going on the front of the card. This card uses the Whimsical Wings stamp set. Now, unlike our tulip, this butterfly is not a layering design, but more of a fill in the blank design. So I've stamped the butterfly wings. You can see here, there's the top and the bottom of the wings. And then you've also got these different elements that you can use to sort of fill in the blanks if you want to. Now you can do all of them, you can do some of them, you can do none of them. So you get lots of different options for different looks that you can achieve with this one stamp set. So let's take a look at the layering process here. Again, I'm going to bring in my stamp positioner and I'm going to start with the wings. Now, again, here, you can do this in the same color if you want to, but I thought I'll do this in two different shades of purple. So I have the violet and I have the orchid. Okay, so let's start here with, we'll start with our top wings. And pull this off. And fortunately, it's all one piece rather than having lots of separate wings. So I'm going to position this on here. Now, before I start stamping, because I've cut my piece of cardstock slightly smaller, just want to make sure that I can also fit my bottom wings on here too. So it looks like I'm okay. I'm good to go there. So I'll set this aside. And then I'm going to ink this up and we'll stamp it. So I'm going to ink this one up with the orchid and simply apply my ink on here. Again, if I have any bald patches or it doesn't print perfectly because of my trusty MISTI, I can make sure that I've got everything in place that if I need to come back and do it again. Okay, smooth this down and lift. So it looks like I've got a pretty good impression there. I'm going to pull this off and set it aside. Then I'm going to add in my bottom wing. Let me scoot this over here. Now you can stamp both the top and the bottom wing at the same time if you want to, but because of the way the dies or the stamps are cut, you will end up with a gap in between the top and the bottom wing. If you want the wings to be snugged up right next to each other, then you'll need to do them separately. So I did try both options and it will just give you a different look. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for. And again, I'm going to do my best to line this up as well as possible. And we will see how this goes. Okay. And this portion I'm going to ink up with my violet. So ink this up. It's beautiful, rich colors. I love these dye-based inks. They just give you so many different shades. And then close this up like so. Okay, and there we go. So I've got my top and my bottom butterfly wings. Now, if you want to fill in the rest of the elements on here, you can definitely do that. You may want to start with your little bug body, and you've got a couple of bugs on here. You've got your center bug, which is this one here, and then you've got two other bug bodies which you can use if you are going to do a profile view of your butterfly. And I'll show you an example of that too. So I'm going to grab my little bug body here and position him or her in here. And in this case, what I want to do is stamp with a lighter color. So for this one, I'm going to use this beautiful lavender, or sorry, lovely lilac is the shade. So a nice light color here. Ink this up. And there we go. Now you can stop here if you want to. If this is as much as you want to do, I think that is a beautiful design and you could easily use this as your card focal. However, if you want to keep going, you can definitely do that too. And what you'll do at that stage is take a look at some of these other elements here. And this is where you're going to be filling things in. So you can decide which of these designs you want to fill in. If you want to do all of them, that definitely works. I'll go ahead and let's do one of these here. This is a two-parter. So you've got the top of your blossom here, and then you've also got your smaller leaf and stem portions here too. So I'm just going to grab the flower. Now, a couple of tricks with this. You may find that you opt to go for an acrylic stamping block. Maybe that gives you a little bit more precision, or you can continue on with your MISTI. I've done both ways before. So I'll just pop that on there and we'll see how we go here. And this one, let's see, I'll do this one with the hot pink. So I'm going to ink that up and then simply place that down. And there we go. So I've got it more or less in the right area. Maybe not perfectly lined up, but I think you can see how the process goes. So then you'll simply continue on as much as you want to do. Now, here's a question that I think maybe many of you will have is what happens, Stamper's Law, like Murphy's Law, Stamper's Law, when you get all the way filling in everything and then you get to the very last blossom and you find that it is off. Maybe not terribly off, but off enough where you notice it as the stamp, as the card maker, and you're thinking maybe the stamp or card recipient will also notice this. So I had that happen when I was stamping one of these designs, and I came to the very end and it was just noticeably off. But I thought, now what would happen if I just grabbed one of those clear glitter sheets and placed it on top? So the error wasn't so bad that it couldn't be disguised with a little bit of self-adhesive glitter sheet, which is what I did here. And now I can't even really see where that error was. But I've simply covered it with that clear glitter sheet, and that's going to kind of help disguise some of that too. And it gives a really nice and somewhat different look too. So I was fairly pleased with that. So I thought I'd share that tip with you. You're not a stamper until you get all the way almost done with a stamp design and then get a fingerprint or something on it. Happens to all of us. So that's what I've done here. And vellum could also probably work for that too. So just another tip there. Now with these two stamp sets, or with these two card designs, I've used the same ink colors here. So I've also added in some shamrock with those leaves on there and then the hot pink for the blossoms. Now in this case, I've stamped that little sentiment and I've used that with black. And then I've mounted this up onto a die cut piece from the Chantilly lace die. Now for the card inside here, I've got a sentiment just simply mounted up onto a scalloped square. And this is from the Threads of Kindness set. And then here I've used a dazzle right on top, just some strips of cardstock on here. And then on the inside, this really sweet little sentiment here with our heart shape stamp as well. So a couple of different options that you can do with the full size butterfly. Now I've also got the profile butterfly here. And so as you can see, I've just used one portion of the wings and then I've filled this in with the various colors. So I've done teal for my wings, and then I've used the letterbox red for the flowers and shamrock for the leaves, and then I've used buttercup to fill in the hearts on here. Again, I've got that Chantilly lace background, and I've also used some of Hunky Dory's diamond sparkles just to fill in and emphasize the profile portion of that bug body. And then for the card inside, I have just the flower tops stamped here, plus a sentiment. You can easily use the butterfly accents as a card focal as well. So here what I've done is just used one of these little leaf clusters, and I've stamped that with shamrock and then stamped the flowers. I've got a little one here and then a larger one. Where did it go? Right there. And I've stamped those using hot pink and orchid. So let me show you this. It was really nice to find these little accent pieces in here and how nicely they work, not only for accenting the butterfly, but on their own too. Okay, I'm going to grab this one here, stamp this down, And let's see, I'm going to do this one using Shamrock. So ink this up. It's just so sweet, and it makes a really nice petite card focal. Okay, so there's our Shamrock leaf cluster or plant. Now for the flower tops, I've got again this piece and this one here. I'm going to go ahead and grab the larger flower and position this about right here. I think I've got that okay. And then, let's see, maybe I need to scoot that around a little bit. Okay, I'll close this up and then position my other smaller blossom on here too. And we'll pop this one here. Close this up. And let's see, I'm going to do the larger with orchid. And then the smaller one, I'm going to use hot pink. And then simply close this up. We'll see how good my aim was. All right, there we go. Looks really sweet. Now you could of course do a row of these, you could do a cluster, you could do a whole beautiful field of different flowers. You've got a lot of different options with this. But for my card, all I wanted to do was just create a really simple little focal element. And I love this with the scalloped rectangles, and it just creates a really nice focal image, something quite simple and sweet. Then for my background on here, I've got the fancy quatrefoil die, and I've die cut this from blue cardstock and then layered it onto some white cardstock using sticky specs. And I've trimmed around that, and I've lifted this up with foam tape. So I actually have quite a few layers of foam tape on here. Underneath here, and underneath here. So I'm creating lots of depth and dimension on here, which adds to this otherwise very simple, clean, fresh, and modern design. A little bit of gingham ribbon on here, and you're ready to go. And then for the card inside, I have a coordinating sentiment simply stamped and mounted onto a scalloped rectangle die. And that is our final project of the day today. So a big thank you to our friends at Concord and Ninth for these really sweet and very fun stamp designs. I really had a lot of fun playing with these. And a big thank you to you for joining me today. We're really glad you're here, and we're so happy that you're part of the Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 3 to 5 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.